All right, well, it's 9:30 and that's our start time. So I just want to welcome everybody to day one of the 3-day CalVIP Grantee orientation. Thank you all for signing into Zoom so we can get started on time. If everybody can please just remember to mute your microphones unless you're speaking. And also, can you please make sure that the name on your Zoom screen is the same that you registered under? We're going to be taking attendance, so it just makes it easier for our staff if your name lines up to what was on the registration. Today, like I said, is day one. We are going to go over the BSCC and CalVIP overview. We'll have some of you share and tell a little bit about your team and your project. Stephanie is one of our analysts on CalVIP, and she will go over the financial responsibilities. You'll have time and an opportunity during the meeting to ask questions, but we'll also have an opportunity at the end to do a question and answer session. Today's meeting is scheduled from 9:30 to about 11:45, just in time for you guys to break for lunch. And I will begin today's presentation with an overview of the BSCC and CalVIP overview. But first, I just want to introduce and thank the staff that helped. I am Katrina Jackson, the lead field representative for CalVIP, and I will be your main point of contact for program-related support. I started at BSCC at the end of March, so this is my first grantee orientation. Ricardo Goodrich is our Deputy Director of CPGP. Ricardo, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's great to hear and to see many of you. Some of you are familiar faces from different grant programs. And first off, just congratulations. As you guys are well aware, it's a highly competitive process. It speaks volumes to you and to your staff and to the different people that help put together these really competitive proposals. So we are warmly welcoming many of you that are new, and for those of you that are returning, obviously very happy to see you as well. Obviously you're in great capable hands with Katrina, and I hope that the next few days will be engaging and that you will make the most out of this opportunity to engage with each other and ask some good questions as we do our best to support you. And just once again, congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Ricardo. We also have Colleen Curtin, who was the field representative for CalVIP before moving over to our standards and training division. Helene Zentner is also a field representative with CPGP and will be presenting the principles of effective intervention on day 3. Like I said earlier, we have 2 program analysts working on the CalVIP grants, Angela Arasada and Stephanie Birmingham. Stephanie will be presenting the fiscal responsibilities a little later this morning. Elise Ram is our research data specialist from our research division and will be presenting the data collection and evaluation responsibilities on day 2. And we also have other members of the BSCC team that are helping behind the scenes. So thank you, everyone, for all your hard work. As you all are aware, and as Ricardo just stated, this was a competitive grant process. So congratulations to everybody for being selected to receive funding. Now a little bit about BSCC. BSCC was formerly known as the Board of Corrections, which was established in 1944. And in 2004, the Corrections Standard Authority replaced the Board of Corrections. And in 2012, the Board of State and Community Corrections was established in statute. BSCC is an independent agency that reports to the governor's office that provides leadership to adult and juvenile criminal justice systems, expertise on public safety realignment, a data information clearinghouse, and provides technical assistance on a wide range of community corrections. BSCC works with stakeholders, including local probation departments, sheriff departments, justice system partners, community-based organizations, and others. Policy for BSCC is set by the 13-member board, whose members are prescribed by statute, appointed by the governor and legislature, and subject to approval by the state senate. The board chair reports directly to the governor, and board members include chief probation officers, sheriffs, a chief of police, a judge, a county supervisor or CAO, 2 community providers, a member of the public, the director of adult parole operations, the secretary of CDCR, and of course the chair. The BSCC consists of 4 divisions. The County Facilities Construction Division collaborates with local law enforcement agencies to maintain and enhance the safety and security of local adult and juvenile facilities by administration of construction finance for such facilities. The Facility Standard and Operation Division collaborates with local law enforcement agencies to maintain and enhance the safety and security of local adult and juvenile detention facilities. Standard Training for Corrections Division works in collaboration with local correction system to improve professional competence of local corrections. And of course, the Corrections Planning and Grants Program Division that promotes effective criminal justice programming by facilitating grant compliance to help state and local partners achieve desired outcomes. CPGP's key responsibilities are ensuring the fair and efficient distribution of state and federal funds. Grants are awarded for a wide range of activities that include preventing and reducing crime by encouraging the use of evidence-based practices, while engaging in collaborative planning, ongoing research, and information sharing. CPGP also provides training and other technical assistance to facilitate grant compliance, and also funds mental health and parenting programs. As previously mentioned, CPGP is responsible for both federal and state grant programs. Here's just a list of some of our programs. You can find more information about our programs on our website at bscc.ca.gov. I'm going to go into the CalVIP program, which is why you guys are all here today. CalVIP was included in the Budget Act of 2019, which included a total of $30 million in funding. $9 million is ongoing, $18 million is a one-time, and an additional $3 million is one-time with specific focus on rural communities. Los Angeles was eligible to apply for a $1 million on a non-competitive basis. All successful grantees must provide a 100% cash or in-kind match, and all successful city grantees must pass through 50% of their funding to one or more community-based organization. The Budget Act of 2020 added an additional $9 million in funding, and all other program requirements remained the same. Assembly Bill 1603, also known as Breaking the Cycle of Violence Act, was signed by the governor in October of 2019. AB 1603 limited the eligibilities to cities in California that were disproportionately impacted by violence and the community-based organizations that served them. It also expanded the type of organization that are eligible to count towards a city's 50% pass-through, which are community-based organizations and public agencies or departments other than law enforcement that are primarily dedicated to community safety or violence prevention. To ensure successful program design and implementation, the BSCC uses an executive steering committee, and the BSCC's ESCs include subject matter experts and stakeholders representing both the public and private sectors. The BSCC makes every attempt to include a diverse representation on its ESCs in range of experience, geography, and demographics. ESCs are convened and approved by the BSCC board as the need arises to carry out specific tasks, including the development of requests for proposals for grant funds. And not only do ESCs develop the RFP, but members also read and rate the proposals. And once the proposals evaluation process is complete, the ESC submit grant award recommendations to the BSCC board, and the board then approves, rejects, or revises those recommendations. Members of the ESC are not paid for their time, but are reimbursed for travel expense to attend meetings. Here are the members of the CalVIP ESC. They include a cross-section of subject matter experts on community engagement, prevention, and intervention programs. law enforcement strategies, and rehabilitation and reentry, including individuals who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. A total of 74 proposals were received, requesting $78 million in funding in 3 categories: cities, community-based organizations, and small cities. After the initial technical review, 70 proposals moved forward for rating by the ESC, which included 13 cities, 49 community-based organizations, and 8 small cities, requesting approximately $72 million in funding. And just over $37 million was awarded to 33 grantees, 13 cities, including Los Angeles, 14 community-based organizations, and 6 small cities. So again, I want to emphasize this was a highly competitive process and congratulate all of you on your success. So you guys are probably sick of me talking, although it's only been a little bit. I'm going to ask that your project director, I'm going to call on a few of you. So you won't know until I call your name, but if your project director can please introduce your team and share a little bit about your program. We will start with the City of Grass Valley. Is anybody here from the City of Grass Valley?
Hi, I'm here, Alex Gamelgard, Chief of Police for Grass Valley. And wow, I wasn't expecting to be called first. So thank you. It took me a second to tap the right buttons on the Zoom screen here. I'm Alex Gamelgard. I'm Police Chief for the City of Grass Valley. On the call today is Captain Steve Johnson. He's our day-to-day finance and operational contact. And I don't know, is anyone from Hospitality House or community partner here?
Hi, Alex. It's Michael from Hospitality House. I'm here.
Excellent. All right. And so I would, and this is a time where you want to just give a little explanation of our program, right?
Right.
Okay. I'm going to have to move to another screen, so hopefully my camera will stay on. As you guys are aware, and as you mentioned earlier, the City of Grass Valley is one of those rural set-aside cities where we are disproportionately affected by violent crime rates, and then we're also rural and small enough that we met that metric, and so we applied under that particular area. And I want to say thank you first and foremost to the individuals that reviewed our application, but also for the opportunity to be part of this program. We partnered with our local homeless shelter, Hospitality House, to provide services to homeless individuals that are both more likely to be impacted by violence, but also the potential to commit violence depending on particular circumstances that they may have going on in their lives. And I'm trying to pull up here just something. Give me 1 second. Our program focuses on really 3 core objectives. One is to build community and police trust. So trust building there. Intensive case management for the individuals that we serve in order to try to reduce recidivism and also the potential to be victims of violence, and then street outreach. This partnership pairs 1 full-time dedicated GVPD officer and 1 full-time Hospitality House case manager, which will have a background in clinical social work, to work side by side on a daily basis. The case manager will be embedded full-time with the police officer riding in a patrol vehicle, and they will respond to calls related to homelessness and substance abuse, as well as mental illness. During a call that involves a potentially violent homeless individual, the caseworker will assist to de-escalate the situation, utilizing behavioral modification strategies to calm the situation if necessary, while the police officer will ensure the team's safety and to assist with other intervention opportunities. This program was developed partially through an exploratory trip that we took with Hospitality House down to San Diego to look at their PERT models of psychiatric emergency response teams, both on their mental health and their homeless side. And we found that looking at our calls for service in our community, that the greatest need revolved around reaching out to our homeless community. And then also we are ensuring that this caseworker that's with our police officer has some background in clinical social work and or educationally, they're working towards that so that we can really help work on both sides of that coin. With that, I turn over to Michael if he has any, or I guess Katrina, which direction you'd like us to go as we set the stage here for future applicants.
Yeah, Michael, if you had a few words that you'd like to say, if not, we can move on.
Well, I'd first just like to say, once again, thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you, BSCC, and specifically the CalVIP program for giving us this opportunity, to really try and make a difference in our community. I think Alex highlighted everything, very well. We're just so excited. We saw the great work that the people in San Diego were doing, in their response to, both homelessness and mental health. We're just, truly trend-setting. And so we're excited at the opportunity to try and replicate that in a smaller community. And so we're just really excited to get started. Thank you.
Thank you both. Next, we will have South Bay Community Services.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mandy Mishevich, and I'm from South Bay Community Services. We are a community-based organization in San Diego County. And also joining us as part of our team, we have Program Director Mindy McCartney here, our Program Coordinator Veronica Gibson, and our lead fiscal accountant, Gloria Ramirez. So we're very excited to have another CalVIP grant. For this project, what we are focusing on is providing a combination of therapeutic and credible messenger supports for our juvenile offenders who are in some of our existing programs for youth on probation or awaiting adjudication in San Diego County, and specifically within City of San Diego zip codes. So for this project, we kind of are focusing on program enhancements in 3 core existing programs that currently do not have these types of supports built into them. And so that is our Achievement Center in Central San Diego. The Achievement Center is specifically for youth who are on probation, usually kind of the higher risk youth that you'll have on probation that are still allowed in the community. And, it's our goal through the Achievement Center to keep the kids in the community. They come to the center Monday through Friday. When it's not COVID, usually the hours are 3 to 7. During COVID-19, we've adapted to do virtual programming so usually program hours can be like 3 to 6 or 3 to 6:30 during that time. But the kids come in for intensive services at the Achievement Center. That's a combination of recreational, educational, and workforce development support. And that is a new project for San Diego County. We just launched it in technically September of 2019, but what we saw was really missing was we don't have a strong therapeutic component for those youth, as well as being able to sustain community mentoring, or what we call it community mentoring in San Diego County, but I know nationwide credible messengers are what people tend to use more, which are people who have lived experience, who have since turned their lives around. So part of this project will fund a clinician full-time at our Achievement Center, so we'll be embedded in the team there. And it will also involve our community mentoring services being able to run multiple times per week out of the Achievement Center. For our clinicians, they are going to be utilizing third wave cognitive behavioral therapeutic models, as well as target group counseling models. For those of you who aren't familiar with Target, it stands for Trauma Effect Regulation, a Guide to Education and Therapy. So, so those will be the models that the therapists are trained in, and then our community mentors use interactive journaling by the change companies. We have community mentors who are trained in both forward thinking and courage to change curricula through interactive journaling. So that's one of the 3 programs we're enhancing. The other 2 programs that we are providing enhancements for are Alternatives to Detention, or ATD, and Choice. So we'll start with ATD. That's been in San Diego County since 2012, first started with BSCC Title II grants and successfully expanded. So we're always thankful for the BSCC for these great grant opportunities. Alternatives to Detention is the only one out of the 3 programs that doesn't exclusively work with youth already adjudicated on probation. We provide 24/7 response to law enforcement, juvenile court, and probation. So some of our youth in ATD are juvenile offenders, but that are pre-adjudication. But Alternatives to Detention is a program that we oversee countywide now, and we serve over 750 youth and families per year with ATD. And so our second clinician that is funded through this grant will be working with ATD and choice youth, which we'll talk about choice in a second. So that therapist will also be trained in the same models, being able to facilitate therapeutic target groups, also being trained in mindfulness, third wave cognitive behavioral therapy. And then our community mentors will also be able to serve our Alternatives to Detention youth as well. I mentioned the third group, which is Choice. That's also a new program that launched in San Diego County in July of 2019. Those are teams of usually entry-level bachelors, kind of case managers that work in teams of 3 to 4 to serve groups of up to 30 probation youth at a time. They're usually higher risk probation youth, and they're seeing youth and families for multiple contacts every day, 7 days a week. So it's great that we have that case management component for both Alternatives to Detention and Choice, but we are enhancing it with these therapeutic services and community mentoring services. For community mentoring, we are partnering with Shafat Outreach, which is a smaller grassroots organization in San Diego County. It's led by Bishop Bowser, who has done community mentoring for us on a previous CalVIP grant very successfully. So we're really excited that we get to enhance these 3 excellent programs in San Diego County. Our goal is to serve at least 75 of these youth per year, but we have the capacity to serve more if needed. And youth will be able to be assessed, and they can receive the therapeutic components. They can receive community mentoring. They can do both if it's appropriate, or just one, depending on where the youth is at in terms of their risk level and engagement. And I should also mention that Sandag is also a partner for us, and they are our independent evaluator for this project. They've done a lot of excellent evaluations for us. So we're excited to have that group be a part of this new project.
Oh, thank you so much. Next is King City.
Thank you. My name's Steve Adams. I'm the city manager. And let me start by introducing our team. It includes Mike Howard, our finance director, Anna Foglia and Denise Velasquez from Sun Street Centers, our operating partner for the program. Anna's the executive director and Denise is the program manager. Sun Street Centers is a local nonprofit specializing in substance abuse recovery and prevention programs. A little bit about King City. We're a small, rural, primarily agricultural-oriented community in the Salinas Valley. The southernmost city in Monterey County. We have a large number of disadvantaged and non-English speaking households. And I'd like to ask Anna if maybe it'd be best to have Anna, if you could tell a little bit about our program, which is a diversion program that we've implemented.
Thank you. Hi, Steve. We also have Michelle Harris with us. She's our Chief Financial Officer, so she'll make sure that we get all of our billing and accounting done well. Yeah, so our program is called Road to Success. It's a youth pre-diversion program. Sun Street Centers has many years working in prevention and intervention. This particular program, which Denise runs, is case management. It's a program for kids that are first time arrested to try and avoid the juvenile hall and the probation. Although we are going to also work with probation this time around to see if we can't help get kids out early. It's a 6-month program. We work with their parent. We do an evidence-based program with the family member that supports the youth. And then there's several parts to our program. Not only are we working with the schools and helping with issues around truancy, et cetera, but we're also hook the students up with some community service hours, with a community action board. So local leaders in the community where they can meet with the student and the student can report their goals for this program. And then afterwards, when they graduate, they can report their successes. And so a lot of the students are arrested around substance abuse, but not all of them. And so we have pretty awesome staff, and we've been doing it for a few years, but only on a small level. And there's been such a great need in King City, and so we're going to be able to hire a full-time case manager that will work with the current half-time case manager and be able to take on an additional 30 students a year. And yeah, we're really excited about it.
Great, thank you both so much. Next, we have the Regents of the University of California, Davis.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Katrina. This is Christy Adams, and the short version of our name is actually UC Davis Health and our wraparound program at the Level 1 Trauma Center here in Sacramento. So thank you again for the opportunity to expand our program with this grant. We're really excited. Our program is based on the evidence-based model of hospital violence intervention programs. So we support violently injured youth between the ages of 13 to 26 who have been shot, stabbed, or assaulted and admitted to our trauma center. And our program provides intensive case management for 6 months to a year after discharge from our trauma center, and that those support services are provided by our 2 intervention specialists, Chevis Johnson and Esmeralda Huerta, and we are excited to bring on a 3rd intervention specialist with the support from this grant. So looking forward to that. Our case management services are really focused on transitioning the youth through the recovery process from violent injury. Our inclusion criteria, as I said, shot, stabbed, or assaulted, we do not take on youth who have been affected by domestic violence or child abuse or are incarcerated. We have other resources that we can refer those young people to. And ultimately, Chevis and Esmeralda's goals are to transition these young people to the natural support and community resources in their specific communities. So we partner with primarily 7 distinct neighborhood areas within the Sacramento County, although we do enroll youth from anywhere in Sacramento County. But we've been targeting the 7 neighborhoods in Sacramento that are disproportionately affected by violence, particularly in the Black community. And we work with the Black Child Legacy Campaign, which was developed specifically to reduce African-American child deaths. One of the causes being third-party homicide. So we're able to connect with these community partners to provide the resources. We currently refer out to our mental health partner for support. And one of the things we're looking for with this grant is to bring our own mental health professional onto our team, and we're very excited about that. So in addition to our 2 violence intervention specialists, the rest of our team, I'm the project director, Christy Adams. I'm the coordinator for the UC Davis Trauma Prevention Program. Our co-director is Dr. Ian Brown, one of our trauma surgeons. And with hospital-based models, we have found in the evidence-based programming that having a surgeon champion is one of the most successful ways to integrate these programs into the hospital infrastructure. We also have our research team that is on board with us already, Dr. Shani Buggs and Dr. Nicole Kravitz-Wirtz. Dr. Brown and myself are also part of the research team. Excuse me, and James Ringo is our financial officer, and Maricela Gonzalez is our day-to-day financial contact. So let's see, that's kind of the highlights of it. really short and sweet, but pretty much we're looking forward to expanding our programming. We've found we've really reached our capacity with our 2 violence intervention specialists. Last year alone, we had over 800 violently injured patients admitted to the UC Davis Medical Center. And of those, about 200 were youth within our range of that met our criteria. And then within that, we had close to, close to 100 that met our program criteria for wraparound, and obviously did not have the capacity to provide support. So we're looking forward to expanding our team and our services to bring on additional youth. So I think that's about it. Katrina, any questions for our program?
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else out there have any questions before we move on to the next one?
All right, thanks again.
All right, thank you. Next, the City of Fresno.
Good morning. My name is Desiree Perry. I'm the grants manager for the Fresno Police Department. I currently have on the call our day-to-day contact person, which is Maggie Navarro, our community coordinator. Usually she would speak, but she's a little under the weather, so she's just in listen mode right now. And I also have our day-to-day fiscal contact person on, and that's Anita Villarreal, who will be responsible for reviewing and submitting all the invoices from our CBOs. We have currently partnered with 6 CBOs, community-based organizations, who will basically cover everything from evidence-based interventions, violence analysis, outreach, tattoo removal, hospital-based intervention, training for law enforcement and other stakeholders, a mentorship program, educational and computer lab classes, structured support programs, case management, community, and or group or individual counseling with mental health positions. We have been the BSCC grants in the past. Matter of fact, it was the CalVIP grant, and I believe that was.
Desiree, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I'm not sure if it's just my on my end or if everybody can. Yeah, so I'm getting a head nod that you're kind of breaking up. No, not really.
Is it better?
A little bit.
Can you hear me now?
It's still a little scratchy.
Yeah, I'm getting scratchy on my end as well.
Katrina, sometimes if they turn off the video, it helps with the bandwidth.
Okay, you want to try that, Desiree? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Ruben.
You're welcome.
Some of the CBOs is Central La Familia, which will provide services, counseling services, be there if we have victims or anyone that needs to go to court. We have our Fresno Economic Opportunities Commission, which is spearheading our tattoo removal program. We have partnered with them for many years. It goes all the way back to the CalVIP grant that we had. And then we also partnered with our Fresno Police Chaplaincy Resiliency Center, and they will provide a licensed clinical worker who currently responds to all of our runaway calls. And they also provide that support for other members of the community when they've been the victim of a tragic violent incident. We have our street outreach, which have been instrumental in our prior grants that we've had where they were partnered with us, and having them on board to go out when we have a shooting, homicide, and basically work with our detectives in trying to provide that liaison, that connection to those who, for whatever reason, don't want to communicate with law enforcement. They feel a lot more comfortable speaking with our street outreach people. And that program has been a tremendous success. We have our Urban Peace Institute that we partnered with, and they're out of LA. And in essence, they are going to provide training for our law enforcement officers and other stakeholders. And then we have our Valley Dream Center, which is actually started by a officer of ours. And he felt the need, and he used to be a MAGIC officer, which is our multi-agency gang enforcement consortium. He used to be a part of that, and he saw that a lot of our youth really didn't have the mentorship, really didn't have anyone to look up to. So he and his wife created this Valley Dream Center, and it's been very instrumental in reaching the youth and adolescents here in the city of Fresno. Our target age group will be probably 5 to about 30. So I know that's a big range, but we felt we get them younger and get them young, and as they progress, hopefully the services and the programs that are available to them will steer them away from the gang lifestyle. And as far as our evaluator, we have partnered with Fresno State, and they have been instrumental in performing evaluations of other grants that we have received. They understand the city of Fresno, they understand the dynamics of the Fresno Police Department, and what is required, obviously, to meet the grant goals and objectives, as well as ensuring that all of our efforts are that we're addressing any recommendations that they've observed as a result of evaluating our projects. We are looking forward to working with BSCC in the next 3 years or 33 months, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Desiree. We look forward to working with you as well. Next on the list is Soledad Enrichment Actions.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, great. Thank you. My name is Johnny Torres. I'm program director for this new program, and I want to thank BSCC greatly for giving us this opportunity. Before I speak, I'd like to introduce some of my other staff that's on the line. Ana Bernal, who's the lead case manager, and then Rudy Rodriguez, who's the program monitor, and Myrna Romero, who's the program manager. I just wanted to acknowledge them on the line. And I just also want to thank this opportunity to bring this program into USC Medical Center and the Los Angeles area, the greater east side of Los Angeles, and also recognize that we inherited this from Youth Alive, caught in the crossfire that started out in Oakland in the early 1990s. And I just want to recognize them because I'm one of the first gang intervention workers that was hired on back in 2009 with the GRID program, which is Gang Reduction Youth Development, out of the mayor's office of Los Angeles. And I remember collaborating with Caught in the Crossfires back in 2009 when it came to our hospital response and crisis response. But unfortunately, they lost funding shortly after. So I wasn't able to collaborate with them no more when it came to crisis. Little would I know in 2020, I'd be able to be part of returning that program to the hospital. So it's a really great honor. And the surrounding areas that USC Medical Center, thank you, my daughter, the surrounding areas of USC Medical Center in the city of Los Angeles is Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, El Sereno, and then on the east side of the Los Angeles County, they call it District 1, that could go from East Los Angeles all the way to Pomona. And the majority of the violence that comes into USC Medical Center, and about 70% of the violence that comes into USC Medical Center is identified as gang related. And we know as intervention workers, some of it is also CSEC and prostitution, which unfortunately has also been taken over by the local gangs. And some of it is also tagging crews, which unfortunately have been umbrellaed by the local gangs. And there's been years where I've responded to more crises for tagging crews than even actual gangs, and it doesn't get identified as gang violence. So I'm excited to be able to not only help this population, but I'm sure within the 3 years of data we collect, I'm sure that 70% is going to be greater, but hopefully we could reduce it within our 3 years of being present in that area. But SEA does hold the grid contracts for Lincoln Heights, El Sereno, and Boyle Heights, which surrounds the hospital. So we have our grid collaborative gang intervention program. And then we also service District 1 gang intervention, which goes all the way from East Los Angeles to Pomona. So we're really excited that we'll be able to really collaborate, really be able to reach out and provide additional resources for the survivors that come into the hospital. Some of our plan to address this violence within the first 24 hours that a survivor comes into the hospital, our program coordinator and our intervention peer mentors, because even in the program, we'll have a lead case manager that would have 2 case managers under them. And we also have a lead peer mentor that would have 3 peer mentors under them that also has an expansion reach to our outside gang intervention. So once they come in, our goal is to, within the first 24 hours, to create a referral process, to connect with them. If we can't connect with them personally, then we'll connect with their families to begin the relationship, because we don't only want to service the survivor, but we want to service the whole family, build a relationship with the whole family. If there's other peers or other siblings that need support, we want to be able to make that connection. If the parents need additional support, we want to be able to make that connection, because we recognize a lot of these problems come from home. So we want to be able to service the whole family. If the patient is strong enough, within the 24 to 48 hours, we want to create an assessment plan, not only that would address the resources needed by the survivor, but we also want to take an ACEs exam, the adverse childhood experiences, so that we could identify the level of trauma that need to be addressed in this person's life. So hopefully we could start that internal healing, not only building a resource and not only providing a resource or providing an avenue, but actually going inside and dealing with the pain and some of the hate that causes us to get stuck in the negative lifestyles, so they could start producing a change. Once they're released, within the first 30 days, we would link them to a minimum of 1 additional service outside of us. And then even within SEA, we provide an array of services from tattoo removal to anger management, domestic violence, substance abuse. We have so many connections with other substance abuse organizations and homes outside of us. We have peer mentor workshops, from healing circles to mentoring circles to art workshops to restorative justice murals. I mean, it's this array of services that we just really want to encompass and just really surround this person when they come out. They'll have 2 meetings with their case manager, a minimum of 2 workshops they would have already experienced if they're strong enough. If not, we could do it virtually while they heal. Within the first 60 days, we want to link them to a minimum of 2 additional services outside of us. Within 90 days, we want to reassess them if we want to extend services, or even if we through the hospital program begin to kind of loosen up, we're still always going to connect them with additional service that we're able to walk through because we know no real elongated change is going to happen within 6 months. So we want to see the longevity investment of everybody that comes into the hospital. And then from every 90 to 180 days, every 6 months to a year, we'll keep reassessing the need of the client. But to be honest with you, in my experience, when you build a relationship with some of these survivors, even when you close them out, you still keep that relationship. I will still keep that door open, because our ultimate goal is not only to reduce them not coming back to the hospital or to incarceration, but to preserve life, preserve family, preserve the longevity, and reduce violence. So that's some of the goals and the strategies we have in place. And we're really excited that we're going to be able to expand our reach. We're going to be able to strengthen our crisis response with this collaboration with the hospital, and it's not only be able to reach out to Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, El Sereno, but all the first district of LA County. So it's really an honor, and it's an honor for us because SEA, to be honest, we came out of crisis. In 1972, it was started by the concerned mothers of East LA who lost their sons to violence, and then we're just tired of it. And we're tired of the violence, and we do whatever we got to do within our ability to hopefully reduce violence and maintain life. And our goal within the first 6 months is to serve no less than 90 clients. And hopefully the goal is serve 180 clients annually. So that's some of our plans. That's some of the things we wish to put in place. That's some of our abilities. And we really, I'm personally really thank you, BSCC, for giving us this opportunity, for giving us this challenge. I hope we live up. I know we're going to live up to it. And I'm really looking forward to this next 3-year journey we have together in servicing our community. And before I close it out, I just want to open it to any of my partners. I don't know if they want to chime in and say any last words. Any of my partners want to chime in? I guess not. So I know we only have 5
No,
minutes.
you did an excellent job, JT.
Thank you.
Covered it
Thank
all,
you.
JT. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know we only have 5 minutes, so I hope I didn't surpass that. But thank you so much. And that's all we have to say for Soledad Richmond Action out of Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. The next is City of Stockton.
All right, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, thank you, Katrina. Just wanted to say, my name is Daniel Muhammad from the City of Stockton. I'm the Director of the Office of Violence Prevention. We just want to thank BSCC for this opportunity to become a partner. And I want to just thank all the other organizations, cities, and groups out there who also got the grant and who are also doing this work, because it's very meaningful work. And so we're just proud to be a partner along this work with everyone. The City of Stockton it's a city that's more or less an agricultural area. If I could describe it, it's north of Oakland and south of Sacramento. And the population is around 315,000, and it's had a history of gang violence for some time. Like any other city, what we are struggling with in the past was, how do you balance, effective law enforcement strategies along with evidence-based intervention strategies? And so that's one of the reasons why our office was created. And about 2 years ago, we started developing out our model that could balance the both of these. How do you do this while keeping the integrity of both? And for the last 2 years, I think that we've done a really good job at doing that in our model. And a lot of it has to do with the way in which we coordinate our efforts. Right now, what we have in terms of in the city, we have an intervention program that responds to hospitals. We have intensive case management services that take place. And then we're building out our partnerships out there that would handle mediations. We have 3 objectives that we're attempting to do. Number one is that we're trying to reduce citywide gun violence that's gang or group related. We want to minimize incarceration by also doing intensive case management services, and then helping our high-risk clients actually transform their lives. And then lastly, we actually just want to create better opportunities for them, and then try to find a way that we can have a better and fair relationship between law enforcement and the community that they provide. Today with me, I have a partner of ours from organization called Friends Outside, and that's Gilbert Montez. They're going to be helping us with one aspect of our model that we needed to build our capacity with, and that was our CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy, classes that we do. These classes are called Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. And what it is that any of the high-risk clients that we actually recruit onto our caseload, they go through a 14 to 16-week course that we focus on 4 areas. The first area is identity. Second area is making better decisions. Third area is how to overcome trauma. And then the last area is financial literacy. So with this grant, we're going to be able to have a coordinator that's helping us with these classes, along with being able to give stipends. And then another part of our model is our communication efforts that we have with our clients, meaning you in the past may have known this as a kind of a ceasefire model, where we've identified high-risk individuals, but then we actually sit down with those individuals with the community participation, law enforcement participation, and then also with intervention. And so along with this grant, we'll be able to now include more of our community partners to be a part of this process. And then lastly, what we want to build out is our what we call our program management cycle that we've created. Right now, we have a very effective program management cycle where we can actually manage, real-time intervention strategies, both from a law enforcement perspective and then also from an intervention perspective. And then we follow it up with deliverables and things of that nature. We've been very good at that because since we implemented that over the last 2 years, we've seen a 34 to 40% reduction in homicides over the last 2 years. Now what we want to do, especially with this grant, is to be able to teach and train our partners that we're working with on how to do these particular models. So with all that being said, or like I said, our 3 objectives is to reduce citywide violence, minimize the reincarceration, and then also create opportunities for those individuals who are high risk of either being a victim or perpetrator of violence, and in building out the capacity with our community partners. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We have 4 more for today. Next is the City of Richmond.
Greetings, everyone. I am Tammy Edwards with the Office of Neighborhood Safety in the City of Richmond. I am the project director for this grant. The name of our project is Beloved Communities Next Level, which is a collaborative between the City of Richmond, RISE Youth Center, Richmond Police Activities League, and the National Council of Crime and Delinquency, which are our evaluators, and the Literacy for Every Adult program, which is a program within the City of Richmond. We will be providing services to youth involved and are affected by gun violence. We will provide an array of evidence-based intervention services to include case management, mentoring, life skills, stipends, mentoring, CBT services, and structured activities such as employment and training services, along with an in-depth evaluation conducted by NCCD. Our project team consists of Stacy Plummer, who is our project coordinator, Caroline Gleisman, which is our evaluator, Manisha Guerrero, who is our admin support, James Houston, who is our program coordinator, and Sam Vaughn, who is our program manager. We will serve a total of 245 youth, ages 14 to 26 years old. Youth will enter the program through ONS and law enforcement, health systems, and community referrals through RISE. This collaborative has been going on for the last 10 years. We have provided an array of services and saw many participants gain a lot of value from our program. We're looking forward to continuing to do the work as a part of the CalVIP grant. And we're just happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Lundquist Institute.
Hey everybody, my name is Vince Chong, one of the trauma surgeons here at Harbor UCLA Medical Center in Torrance, but in the Los Angeles County. Here on the call with Dr. Shamshir Samra. I'm not sure if he was having some audio problems earlier, so he is here and will join if he can make it. He's the project director and principal investigator. I'm one of the co-leads for the program. We have operated a hospital-based violence intervention program here for a couple of years now in partnership with our community partner, Southern California Crossroads, and the executive director, I think Paul Carrillo, is also on this call, who you'll hear from later. We do much of what's been said already in terms of intensive case management for trauma patients who come to our hospital who are victims of violence. Many of them are young folks who are gang involved, but also other victims of assault and stabbings with other social determinants of health that make them high risk for further violence or involvement with the carceral system. So our goal has been to try to reduce re-injury, reduce arrest and involvement in the carceral system. And we've been at capacity for the past 2 years with 2 case managers. So we're really honored to be able to get this grant to sort of expand our services. A couple of things that we're hoping that the grant will help us do is move towards sort of geography-based or geography-matched case management. So we have a big catchment area for a trauma center that's pretty diverse, and we've been serving the South LA area as well as the Harbor area in Southern LA County. And so we're going to hopefully get some new case managers to do some geography matching or geography basing for our case management services. Southern California Crossroads has also had a really long history of case management and also youth development. And I think with this grant, we're going to try to provide some more group-based youth development services for the young people that come in and enroll in our services. We have a lot of high school aged adolescent youth who are either gang involved or gang adjacent. And we have one of our case managers who's very involved in some mentorship with them. And so this will hopefully help us formalize a youth development and mentorship group for this group of young people in our services. Another thing I just wanted to highlight is we have a really strong partnership with our hospital trauma recovery center. So we have sort of built-in mental health and counseling services for our patients who need it. And I think that's something that's unique to our program that we're hoping to strengthen with this grant. And I'll leave it at that. I don't know if I'm sure you're on. Lundquist Institute is our research institute for the medical center. The folks who are involved in that are Nettie Nelms, James Hansberry, and Allison Weber. They're sort of our day-to-day fiscal partners, as well as our program coordinator from the Lundquist side.
Yeah, thanks for that, Vince. Yeah, sorry, I was having some audio issues. Yeah, and we look forward to working with Lundquist to help us with the evaluation pieces as well. But yeah, great to meet everyone, and really looking forward to working on this.
Thank you both. Two more left. Fresno Economic Opportunities Commission.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Am I heard? Am I loud enough?
I can hear you.
There we go. Well, first of all, we want to say congratulations to everyone who received this grant. Job well done. Continue to do the great work. Just a little bit about us. My name is Isaiah Green. I am here representing Fresno EOC, Economic Opportunities Commission, one of the biggest action agencies in the country, but the biggest in California. We've been around for about 55 years now, doing work in our urban communities, supporting and services those in need. Also representing Advanced Peace. Just a little bit about Fresno. I see I have some of my colleagues on the line. Khalid Mutaki with Advanced Peace. Good morning. And Jim from EOC, our CFO. Good morning. Just a little bit about Fresno, just to give you an idea how very important this grant is, not only to us doing the work, but to community of Fresno in general. Our poverty rate is about 21.3% here in Fresno, 66% higher than the California rate. We're the second largest concentrated poverty city out of the 100 metropolitan cities in the U.S. at 43.8%. Our unemployment rate has increased about 95% over the last 3 months, of course, due to COVID. 2018, when it comes to violence and the homicide rate, 2018, we had 32 homicides. 2019, we've had 39. And in 2020, we are already at 50 plus homicides. So we are actually one of 8 cities in the state that qualified for this grant in all 3 categories. So I say all that and give those statistics to say that this grant is going to go a long way. The money, the funds, the support, the resources are very important to us as a community. So thank you again for allowing us to do the work here with your support. Just a little bit about Advanced Peace. Our niche is we definitely want to service those who are trapped in the cyclical and retaliatory gun violence here in Fresno. As I talked about a little bit, our violence rate is increasing, but the way we do things is very different. Our strategy is very relational. We see our community and those in our community as assets. And of you all, as you all know, a lot of people outside of the community, or a lot of ideologies and theories outside of the community don't see those in despair as assets. But we approach our work with the asset-based mentality. Fresno EOC provides a number of resources to be able to allow our fellows, the people, men and women, communities that we serve, the chance and the opportunity to grow. We focus on the development of our people, our well-being, and the healing of our people in our community. And that takes resources, that takes love, that takes value, that takes time. And that's our approach. Our strategy is very relational. We love and pride ourselves on, especially as advanced pieces. I'm continuing to learn the model. As we see our community, like I said, is asset-based. So we provide opportunities in job development, trauma-informed care, anything related to job training, anything that can service our community. EOC fosters a couple of high schools here within their organization and their system. We foster many programs, local conservation corps, that has a number of resources to allow our fellows in our community to get involved and to be able to just service them in the way that our community needs to be serviced. So we appreciate this grant. We appreciate the work that we're doing. We appreciate the work that everyone else is doing. We pray that God continue to bless your work, because we know this is not easy work. So I pray that God continues to go before all of us doing this work, that we see our communities healing, we see our communities growing and developing as assets, not only to their own communities, but to the world in general. And if anyone else from our team, Khalid, Brother Khalid, or Jim want to speak, feel free. Now is the time. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jim Rodriguez. Hopefully you can hear me out there. I just want to echo my colleague Isaiah Green's comments on we take this work very seriously, and we are humbled and really looking forward to putting these funds to good use in our Fresno community. As Isaiah said, we experience a high rate of gun violence and homicide, and as I watch it year over year, unfortunately, it's going the wrong direction. So I just simply want to say thank you for these funds. As good, faithful stewards of the last 55 years of an action agency, we can assure you that all the funds that will be allocated to this program will be used in the most best way possible, again, to reduce violence, gun violence, but also providing life map opportunities for the folks that we're serving here in the community. So a big thank you to you all, and congratulations to all the co-grantees as well. Take care.
Thank you, Isaiah and Jim. Today, we will end the grantee presentations with the City of San Bernardino.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Miranda. I'm the Community Intervention Program Manager for the City of San Bernardino. Program lives in the City Manager's office. Today, I have partners from our partners that are doing the direct services from Hope Culture. And we also have young visionaries here with us. I'm also sitting in for our finance director and our day-to-day fiscal contact. So the title of our project is simply that. It's the Violence Intervention Program. This is our second award. We were awardees in the first cohort, and we're grateful for the second opportunity to expand our programming here. Our first program effort was simply a focused deterrence, a ceasefire approach to violence, along with some supportive services. What this grant is able to do for us is enhance that. So more community capacity. We have some partnerships with Loma Linda Hospital, along with Loma Linda University is going to help us with some research and evaluation on the impact here. In addition, we have the Urban Peace Institute that's going to provide some technical assistance and some training for our outreach workers and our case managers. And from there, we want to also, when schools open up, we want to partner up with schools. Some of our agencies, like the Young Visionaries organization, has strong relationships with the school district here. So we're going to just venture in those high schools and middle schools. Our target population is the highest risk, repeat offender, ages between 14 to 35, if you will. So we do have 3 buckets of services: violence intervention, which consists of, rumor control, crisis response, conflict mediation and resolution among groups. We have some proactive engagement activities that are attached to the strategy known as ceasefire, those call-ins. We like to call them sit-downs, community sit-downs. And separate from that, we do also, just like a lot of the grantees here, doing some intensive case management, some wraparound services and linkages to other needed services for our population here. For the sake of time, I'm going to hand it over to our partners to see if they have any other comments they would like to share about the direct services they provide. I'll let Terrence Stone begin.
Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing? My name is Terrence Stone. I'm founder, executive director of Young Visionaries Youth Leadership Academy here in the city of San Bernardino. We're so happy just to be here and we're just elated just to still be able to do this work in the community. We have one of the largest gang intervention prevention programs here in the city of San Bernardino. We've been here for 20 years, working fiercely on this issue. It's just a pleasure to partner with the city of San Bernardino. They have an awesome team over there. We just hope to enhance that team and get stuff done. We have some incredible community intervention prevention workers that are out in the field on the daily, interacting in violent gang neighborhoods and being able to sit down with these individuals and bring them resources and things like that. So we're happy also with our good partners, Hope Culture, which is doing a fantastic job as well in the community. I don't know if Ricky Alanis is on the call right now from Hope Culture, but if so, we would love to hear from you. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Well, I'm on here today with you all, and we're excited to be here and just to be a part of this awesome work here in San Bernardino and all throughout the state of California. My name is Rick Alanis Jr., the executive director of Hope Culture. I was the youth pastor, young adult pastor for about 10 years here at the Victory Arch here in San Bernardino. And then we started Hope Culture to start doing more of our gang intervention work. So I have an extensive background in working with gangs and people with substance abuse problems. And so to be able to do this work now is just so grateful to be able to have this type of job. I was always telling people that I've never been so excited to get up and go to work before, because this job is so fulfilling. At times it could be stressful, but at the same time, this is what gives us purpose, and this is what keeps us going, is to see lives changed and to see families healed and not just change, but actually transform, And so by partnering with Young Visionaries, the city of San Bernardino, I believe that we have a great team. We have a well-diversified team, and then also partnering also with the Victory Arch Church here with the Recovery Center. So in doing this, we're able to do, as everyone has mentioned a lot already, a lot of the evidence-based violence intervention, the hospital-based street outreach, community engagement. We're starting our wellness and fitness program, life skills and personal development. We have a live-in drug and alcohol recovery center. And now we're starting with our job placement and being able to partner with Young Visionaries. We're able to complement each other with our different strengths and different things that we have to offer. And I think that that's very key in the success of this program, is the chemistry that goes along with the different agencies that are involved with it. And so, my good friend Terrence here, we have a long-lasting relationship, and we're excited to continue to partner together and do this work, as well as partnering with the city of San Bernardino. Never before has anything like this taken place in San Bernardino to this extent, to be able to do this type of work. And also with the police department as well coming in. The lieutenant that's been assigned to us has been very open to us, and we're starting to build a real good relationship as one of the key things we want to do is build that community and police relationships. And we're starting to see some success there and just really see some success in the overall program. So thank you all for having me, and thank you to the BSCC for this opportunity, and hope to see all of you again soon as we continue this work. God bless.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to say congratulations and thank you to everybody that's working together. There's so much collaboration, not only between CBOs, but also CBOs and cities. It's just great to hear all of the programs that everybody is going to be offering with CalVIP funds. I would like to stop here for a few minutes and just see if there are any questions, or if anybody has questions for other grantees before we jump into our financial responsibilities. So I'm just going to take a second. And mind you, I can't see everybody's screen, so feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I am going to turn it over to Stephanie, who will be presenting our fiscal responsibilities. Stephanie, take it away.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fiscal responsibilities portion of our orientation. I'm very excited to be working with all of you. Please take a few seconds to stand up and stretch, move around. I know that some of you might have been sitting for a while, so feel free to move around as I quickly introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Birmingham, and I've been an analyst with contracts planning and grant programs since May of 2020. Myself, along with Angela Artisana, will be your main points of contact for invoices, desk reviews, and most day-to-day questions related to fiscal responsibilities of the CalVIP grant. Angela and I will create an invoice workbook for each of you using our newly updated templates. In this section of the PowerPoint, we will review how to locate and save the newly updated invoice workbook, instructions for submitting quarterly invoices and budget modifications, as well as required supporting documentation for those invoices. Just going to pull it all up there. There we go. You will have received a packet with the slides from this PowerPoint, as well as pages from the invoice workbook, invoice supporting documentation outlining the desk review process, budget modification scenarios, and eligible and ineligible project expenditures. These are also available online. We will be reviewing all of these documents together today, but please plan to read them in their entirety on your own later. Please feel free to take notes. I will pause for questions periodically during this PowerPoint presentation. Please keep this information saved and be ready to reference it often. Also, if your financial officer changes, be sure the new one gets this information. Most questions that come up regarding these processes can be answered by reviewing these instructions. The next few slides will walk us through where to locate the invoice workbook on the BSCC website. You'll go to the web address shown here in blue. Once on the BSCC website, you'll click the Grantee Invoicing tab on the right side of the screen, which is highlighted in red currently. Scroll down the Grantee Invoicing page to find the California Violence Intervention and Prevention, CalVIP, grant program dropdown at the bottom of the page. You can see the arrow is pointing to it currently. Click the cohort 3, or click cohort 3, and then find your specific grantee workbook. If you go there now, the actual Excel invoice or Excel links won't be connected yet, but once we get your invoice done, it'll be there for you to download. Once you've located your grant-specific workbook, you will right-click on the file and select Save As. You'll save the workbook to your computer without renaming it. After saving, exit the web browser and work directly from the saved file. Each time you open the workbook, you'll be prompted to enter a password and to enable macros. The password is the same as your grant agreement number, and please be sure to type in the dash when entering the password. This is one of the most common issues that grantees have when learning to use the workbook. Also, please don't break, unlock, or edit these workbooks other than adding information in the designated areas. This view of the invoice workbook has the tabs outlined in red on the bottom. Each financial invoice has a separate workbook tab titled with the invoice number. In addition to the invoice tabs, the other tabs in the workbook are budget modification form, project narrative, reporting periods and due dates, and invoice workbook instructions. A sample of each tab of the invoice workbook has been provided to you with your handouts. Please pay special attention to the instructions tab. Most questions about how to use the workbook can be found by using the instructions on this tab. Excuse me. This sample workbook in this presentation shows a sampling of the invoice tabs, but when you actually open up your specific invoice workbook, you will have the correct amount of invoices depending on whether you chose monthly or quarterly billing. Also, the sample workbook says lead public agency at the top, but this is not applicable for your grant, and it'll be left blank in your workbooks. All right, so to keep things moving along and to keep us awake, hopefully, I have some quizzes built into this PowerPoint. So I will ask you a question here shortly, and please use your Zoom reaction buttons or your hands and faces to vote on the correct answer. So the question is, what is the correct way to save your workbook? Is it thumbs up, save the workbook to your computer without renaming it, exit the web browser and work directly from the saved file? Or is it the laughy cry face, save the workbook to your computer, rename it with your pet's name, and work directly from the saved file? Okay, the correct answer is thumbs up. Save the workbook to your computer without renaming it, exit the web browser, and work directly from the saved file. Are there any questions about the topics covered so far? Okay, move on. So this is the financial invoice form BSCC 201 that you will be submitting on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on what your organization chose. It is a statement of expenditures and issue payment. You must submit an invoice even if your expenditures for the reporting period are zero. This is a closer view of the same financial invoice form from the last slide. This form will allow you to enter data into the green shaded fields. All other fields are locked. In the section titled This Reporting Period, which is outlined in red, you will enter the line item expenditures and match contributions incurred during the reporting period. Please round to the whole dollar and do not include decimals. If the amount you enter here is greater than the available balance, an error message will appear. For each dollar amount entered as an expenditure, enter a brief but detailed description. Your expenditures should correlate to the project budget narrative, which is listed on its own tab along with approved modification requests. And here's an example of a project budget narrative and a matching expenditure description. Under salaries and benefits in the narrative, this grantee has a project director position being paid $60,000 per year with 25% benefits. In their expenditure description, the grantee has used a formula that matches their project budget narrative. The math formula can be calculated to equal the expenditure amount being reported. One of the most common issues that I see with invoices is a mismatch between the project budget narrative and the financial invoice expenditure description. Your project budget narrative is what you your grant agreements. I'm looking for a match between the narrative and the invoice. Another common mistake made on the invoices is a formula in the expenditure description doesn't equal the amount you were reporting in the invoice. I should be able to do the math and end up with the your report invoice. Here are two more examples of how this grantee could have written their expenditure descriptions for the same project director. These are different descriptions, but they come out to the same total. In this example, the director is paid $60,000 per year. That number will not change from invoice to invoice, but it may be represented in different ways. In the first example, we see the $60,000 per year salary represented as $5,000 per month. In the second example, we see the same $60,000 yearly salary represented as $60,000 per year. Both are acceptable. Are there any questions about how to fill out the invoice form?
Yes, just one question.
Okay.
So if we put the proposal together with different calculations and then we find the actuals are different, should we do a budget modification for that to make the line item match what the invoice will say?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll get into budget modifications a little bit later in the presentation, but anytime you feel or find that you have that you need to make changes within line items or within amounts in line items, you'll want to do a budget modification.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Speaking of budget modifications, this is the modification request form, BSCC 223. You can access the modification request form by selecting the tab titled Modification Request in the invoice workbook. Excuse me. For the modification request form, you can enter data into the yellow shaded fields, but all other fields are locked. Please note that a budget modification does not change the grant award amount, and it is your responsibility to receive approval from Katrina before submitting this form. You will designate an individual to prepare modification requests. The authorized financial officer cannot prepare modification requests. The newly updated modification form allows you to do one of three things. You can make a change within a line item that modifies the grant project narrative, but does not change the total dollar amount of the line item. You can modify the budget by moving funds from one line item to another, or you can allocate earned project income. Please do not forget to select one of these boxes before submitting the form. You will identify the budget modification number by selecting the next number in sequential order. So if it's your first modification, then you will put a 1 in the box next to modification request number. And then you need to identify on which invoice the modification becomes effective. This is a common error. Please be mindful of filling it out. I receive a lot of these without these boxes filled in. In the changes section outlined here in red, you will enter a plus or minus followed by the dollar amount, which will populate the modified budget section. You can skip this step for line item changes since they do not change the budget. In the justification section of the modification form, you should explain why the change is necessary. This section should never be left blank. For budget modifications specifically, you must list the affected line items, detail how the original budget narrative has changed, and explain why the change is necessary. The justification written here should match what was previously discussed with and approved by Katrina. Take a look at the area right above the red rectangle labeled project income. It is highly unlikely that you will have project income, so this will probably remain blank. This section would only apply to you if, for example, you held a conference and made money from the registration fees. This slide outlines the process of approving and certifying invoices and budget modifications. These are the e-signature rectangles that you'll see at the bottom of most of the forms in this workbook. It's easy to overlook them, and I get a lot of submissions, especially at the beginning of grants, with this section not filled out. Please be sure to fill it out. The authorized financial officer is specifically identified in the grant agreement and/or the grantee contact information sheet. The authorized financial officer cannot be the project director or the individual preparing the invoice. Please be sure to fill out all information in the green shaded areas before submitting. This slide highlights the bottom of each invoice where the person preparing the report electronically signs and dates the invoice before forwarding to the authorized financial officer for review. The authorized financial officer should check the certified square at the bottom of the invoice before clicking submit, which will send a copy of the invoice workbook to the BSCC. We have been receiving reports that the submit button doesn't always work, especially for Mac users or users with the web-based version of Excel. If you find the submit button doesn't function for you, please save and send the workbook manually to the CalVIP Cohort 3 email address, which you can see on the slide in the blue. Remember that only the authorized financial officer may submit invoices and budget modifications, so this email must be sent from them. And these instructions are tricky to remember, especially if it's a little bit before you invoice. So I recommend keeping the materials provided for this presentation saved in an easy to access location, and please refer to them often. Grantees must maintain supporting documentation for all grant and match expenditures claimed on invoices. All supporting documentation must be maintained by the grantee on site and be readily available for review during BSCC site visits. Subrecipients or subgrantees are required to keep the same level of documentation as our primary grantees. Examples of supporting documentation are receipts, invoices, work orders, etc. And I will go into this more in depth in the next section. All right, time for another quiz. So again, use your Zoom reaction buttons or your faces and hands to vote on the correct answer. So the authorized financial officer cannot be the same person as the project director or the individual preparing the invoice, or is the correct answer, the authorized financial officer can be the same person as the project director or individual preparing the invoice. Oops. Okay, the correct answer is thumbs up. The authorized financial officer cannot be the same person as the project director or the individual preparing the invoice. Are there any questions about anything that we've covered so far?
I have a quick question.
Okay.
On the budget modifications, is there a threshold? If we're not changing a line item more than 15% or 10%, is there a threshold where we would not need to request a budget modification?
Anytime you are changing the amount within a line item, you'll need to submit a budget modification.
I have a question as well. If we only have one member of our organization that handles financials, so we were expecting the person preparing the invoice to be the person submitting the invoice as well. Should we switch our authorized financial officer to perhaps the CEO or another director within the organization?
That is a good idea. Yes. So you could handle that one of two ways. You could designate your executive director to be your authorized financial officer, or your project director could be the one filling out or preparing the form, and your chief financial officer could still be the one certifying. We just need to make sure that there's different people. And if that does change, there is a grantee contact information sheet that you'll have to complete to make that official.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So hi, along the same lines, in the grant contact sheet, we do list our financial service officer. She does review all of our invoices and materials, but we have a designee. Can we have the designee be the person submitting the invoice?
They can do that, but you'd have to change their, I guess, their title on the contact information form to authorized financial officer. They're the only ones that can submit invoices.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. That is weird. Sorry. All right, apologize for that. We will now move on to reviewing the instructions for completing the invoice supporting documentation packet. This is also referred to as the desk review. I mentioned earlier that grantees must maintain supporting documentation for all expenditures claimed on invoices. The official lingo is every item claimed on the invoice must have sufficient supporting documentation to clearly and accurately substantiate the exact amount claimed for reimbursement or match. The desk review is the process of you gathering that support documentation, organizing it, and submitting it to the BSCC for review. The 5 pages in this handout outline how to gather, prepare, and submit the required documents. The desk review process is separate from the invoicing process. When the desk review is due, you will submit the supporting documentation packet, which includes grantee salaries and benefits worksheet, the supporting documents labeled, and the supporting documents and the labeled grantee invoice supporting documentation checklist. You will also continue to submit a separate Excel invoice following the process we reviewed in the PowerPoint. To start, you'll gather all project-related receipts for each reimbursable, match, and/or leveraged category item listed in the grant invoice. If you have questions about supporting documentation, please refer to the recently updated BSCC Grant Administration Guide, which can be found at the link shown here. I know it's small, but it's in the blue. You will label all documents that you will be submitting with the budget line item and document number. For example, services and supplies document number 1. Handwritten labels are fine, and only expenses that are incurred and paid for by the grantee during the grant cycle and before the end date of the applicable invoicing period are eligible expenses. This means that dates on all supporting documents must fall between the grant start date and the end date of the applicable reporting period. So I'm going to go a bit out of order now so that we can view the grantee invoicing supporting documentation checklist because I think this document brings clarity to the process. You will see the same categories listed here that you are familiar with from the invoices and your grant agreement budget. At the top of the form, you will note which invoice you are providing support documentation for, which currently is outlined in red. So this is invoice number 1. You'll then complete the table as it relates to the invoice you listed at the top of the form. You will list the amount and support documents provided for each category here. Be sure to have the authorized financial officer sign and date approval at the bottom. For category 1, salaries and benefits, you need only to fill out the grantee salaries and benefits worksheet. You do not need to provide timesheets. But please continue to keep those timesheets on site. But again, you do not need to send them with your desk reviews. So now that we've gathered our supporting documents, filled out the checklist, and completed the salaries and benefits worksheet, let's jump back into the instructions, which outlines some of the types of documentation you can provide for the other categories. Remember to see the BSCC Grant Administration Guide for a more complete list. For Section 2, Services and Supplies, you can provide itemized receipts, customer invoices, supplier invoices, internet receipts, etc. It should be easy to identify the vendor name, form of payment, amount of item or service, total paid, dates of purchase, and description of items. In Category 3, Professional Services, you can use copies of invoices, work orders, etc. If the invoice or work order does not provide sufficient detail, include a one-page statement that details the amount and how the expense meets the requirements of the grant program. Hopefully you're getting the gist, as I'm going to skip reading each category and its requirements to you at this time, and I strongly encourage that you read it in its entirety on your own. The final page of the instructions outlines how to assemble and submit the supporting documentation, otherwise known as the desk review packet. Once all supporting documents are labeled and accurately matched to the invoice, the authorized financial officer will sign off on the grantee invoice supporting documentation checklist. This checklist will be the face page for the desk review packet. You will scan all of your supporting documentation and create a single PDF document for submission that contains all the documents we went over. The preferred order of the documents is outlined here in the instructions. And I want to just emphasize how important it is to make sure that what you do submit is clearly labeled and easy to read. We get a lot of these packets with a lot of extra information or in handwriting that we can't read. So I just really ask that it's organized well and that all labels are easily read. Are there any questions about desk reviews or anything that we've covered so far?
I have a question. So if we're the recipient and we're contracting with a CBO to provide the service, for their salaries, do we submit a salary and benefit worksheet, or are we submitting an invoice under services and supplies?
If it's a contracted CBO, usually you just submit an invoice from that CBO, and it's generally under the CBO line item or the NGO line item. We do not need their timesheets or a grant salaries and grants worksheet for them, as long as the invoice has the required information on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. All right. The next part of the presentation can be a bit dry. So just for fun, I encourage you to take a small sip of water or coffee or tea or whatever beverage you have nearby you anytime you hear the word expenditure, which will be a lot. All right. You've been given 4 documents that outline eligible and ineligible project expenditures. These expenditures may also be claimed as match funds. You must maintain adequate supporting documentation for all grant and match expenditures claimed on invoices. And if I were in your shoes, I would keep the supporting documentation with the invoices. That way you won't have to go back later and search for them. Please read and refer to this handout and the 2020 Grant Administration Guide for more information. Some examples of eligible project expenditures include salaries and benefits for project staff, services and supplies directly associated with the project, lease payments for office space, and food and beverages for program participants with prior approval from Katrina. Forgetting to get prior approval is one of our more common errors. An important note about indirect costs indirect costs necessary to the operation of the organization and performance of the project are an eligible expenditure. Indirect costs may be charged by one of the following options: either 10% of total direct salaries and benefits, or 5% of total project costs, excluding equipment. And this is something that you have most likely already designated within your budget. Ineligible project expenses include, but are not limited to, the acquisition of real property, supplanting existing programs, project resources, or personnel, bonuses or commissions, lobbying or fundraising activities, or costs incurred outside the grant period, which is a common mistake. For more information regarding eligible and ineligible project expenses, please see the July 2020 Grant Administration Guide. All right, so now that we're all well hydrated, are there any final questions? Okay, well, great job, everyone. I know that was a lot of information, so I appreciate you staying attentive. I just want to mention one more time to please save these materials and refer to them often. I look forward to working with everyone, and thank you for all your hard work that you do.
Thank you, Stephanie, so much. That is a lot of information to take in. We recognize that, and we did provide you with the documents that Stephanie went over, as well as her PowerPoint and the virtual binder. That really concludes our presentations. We'll open it up for any questions that you guys have, not just over the presentation that Stephanie did, but anything from today's meeting. Are there any questions?
Hi, I have question.
Hi.
Hi, I am the person who prepared the invoice for the agency. Do I need to attend tomorrow and Wednesday meeting, or you will always record it and I can listen to it later because I have some other priority to have to be done? So I mean, I love to attend, but I may don't have time to participate.
Yes, thank you. We will record it and post it to our website. We do ask that those of you that can do attend, but we also recognize that other things may come up or you have other commitments. So we will post it to our website, but we do ask that if you are able to attend, that you attend.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Hi, Jeff, go ahead.
Can you hear me? If
Yep.
if the food and beverage is being provided by the program to a program participant by our NGO as part of a pro-social event that they're doing, do we have to get permission for each one of those in advance?
We will go over the prior approvals for food and beverage and incentives tomorrow, I believe it is. But yes, you will need to get prior approval, but you can do a prior approval for the whole grant period. Does that make sense? So you could do a memo stating these are the costs associated with each of the meetings that we see.
So if they indicated what their expected expenditures are for food and beverage as part of pro-social events, we can provide that number to you and get it blessed in advance.
Correct.
Perfect. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we'll go more into details about that. Like I said, I believe it's tomorrow.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Well, you know, today was amazing. Thank you guys all so much. We are ending quite a bit early. Know that Stephanie, Angela, and myself are all here if you guys do have any follow-up questions. We look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow, and thank you for being early today. I ask that you jump on about 9:15 tomorrow as well. With that said, thank you guys all so much and enjoy the rest of your day.